All aboard! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hockey fans, well, ladies and gentlemen, Mikey, you have now arrived at my train of thought. It's time to talk about the NHL Power Rankings. We are a week into the playoff push, playoff rush, if you will, and we are this close to the NHL deadline. It's coming out tomorrow afternoon, Friday the 6th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So naturally, we're all going to be watching TSN or ESPN Plus or whatever it may be, however we get our hockey coverage. We're all going to be paying attention to seeing if our teams are buyers or sellers. In the first two tiers, in theory, a lot of these teams are going to be in the latter category, the seller category, and these next 8 teams are going to be in Fulton, Kentucky for the zombie tier. Vancouver freed Tyler Myers. Yes, they traded the right shot defenseman to Dallas, and they got some decent picks for him. They got a 2 and a 4 in different years back for Tyler Myers. And in the case of the Canucks, it's very necessary to rebuild. Let's be honest. It just hasn't gone their way this year and over the last couple years, to be honest. And after losing 7 straight, yeah, it's probably high time to start moving pieces if you can help yourselves get this done and you can kind of sort of rebuild for the future. They lost last night to the Hurricanes amongst the 7 straight, and the aforementioned Stars buried them 6-1 on Monday. So yeah, it's needless to say, this has not gone well for them. There's another Canadian team that has also not won since the Olympic break, and I'm going to talk about them in one of these 2 tiers. You'll have to find out. You'll have to wait to find out which tier I talked about them in. St. Louis, not many deals. Yeah, the Blues aren't as active as I thought they would be. I thought St. Louis would do a couple of trades by now and try their hardest to move towards the future, but they really haven't done but too much. And who knows? Maybe it's a prelude to what's to come. They traded Matt Luff to the Islanders for Justin Gaither. So maybe Gaither will help them out for the future if that is a future move for them. Maybe they do something different. The point of it is they just haven't been as active as I would have probably expected of them. And this trade happened February 24th, so it's not even in the last week or so. We'll see what the Blues are capable of, if they are capable of anything else off the ice. On it, they've actually won 2 straight, so maybe they're gaining a little bit of steam, but it's not going to lead them anywhere, at least towards the playoffs. New York Rangers. So tonight happened. Yeah, the Rangers may be bad, but they also destroyed the Maple Leafs. This was a brutal game for Toronto. They lose 6-2, the Maple Leafs do, but the Rangers at least have struggled since, well, honestly, the entire season. They've struggled really badly, and they at least got tonight in their system. I don't know what the Rangers are even capable of doing aside from the Panarin trade, though I do like I do like that they had to do that. I felt necessary, and maybe they can shed some other bigger salaries on their roster. We'll see if they can figure that out between now and 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. But in the meantime, between time, another painful year for Ranger fans at least has an impressive win against a Maple Leafs team that is crashing and burning as we speak. Speaking of burning, the Flames. Nice Weegar trade. Had a really good haul to get Mackenzie Weegar to Utah. Very quality stuff by Calgary. I cannot hate on getting 3 second-round picks in one draft. I can't hate on that at all, especially considering it's the next draft. Good work on Calgary's part there. I also got Ole Mata for the leadership because that makes sense on a relatively youngish team. I can't hate on that. Sure, their season's going nowhere fast, and that's okay. They'll celebrate that Oiler win I talked about a couple weeks ago in the last Power Rankings I did, but I can't hate on this at all for Calgary. And I'll get to Utah's side of it later, but I can't hate on this for the Calgary Flames to get this done and move forward. Winnipeg, somehow not selling. I don't get it with the Jets. I'm a little disappointed that they haven't made a move yet. I kind of expect them to at this point, to try to flip something, anything to get some kind of younger. And maybe they can't. Maybe the prices are too high. That could also be in play here. You obviously don't move Hellebuck, and that would be a real shame to move Connor Hellebuck after the heroics he had in the Olympics, because that was amazing stuff, by the way. But what do you do if you're the Jets? How do you go about this? how can you possibly sell pieces that are really relatively high ticketed? What do you do here? How do you figure that out? Nashville, building a future. They got a lot of picks back. You think Calgary got 3 in the trade that they got with Utah. Nashville said, all right, bet we can get a whole lot more here. They got a 5th round pick from the Avs, for example, in getting Blankenberg, defenseman, to Colorado. They also got 2 3rd round picks, 1 present, 1 future. The first of which for Michael Bunting in Dallas, and the other one, Cole Smith, from Las Vegas. And they're kind of helping Ops and other teams in the West destroy each other. I respect it, though. I got no problem here with this. They also got a 2nd round pick for Mike McCarron, so from Minnesota. So they are loading up with picks. So I respect it, what Nashville's doing here. They're getting picks for the present and the future, as the last 2 seasons have been abject disasters. I'm okay with this for Nashville. Just keep rebuilding, please. Keep doing that. Chicago, Oilers helping rebuild. Speaking of getting picks, Chicago is doing a very good job of this, and the Edmonton Oilers are being the suppliers. It is really well done here. They got Jason Dickinson and Colton Dock from Chicago, and as well as Andrew Mangiapane. They also got a conditional first in next year's draft, which is probably lottery protected, I'm sure. But Edmonton's not keen on being in the draft lottery, with McJesus blessing their fans with many goals and moments and things of that nature. That was not the only trade that Edmonton and Chicago made, where Chicago got picks. For example, Connor Murphy also going to Canada and Edmonton. And a 2nd round pick in the 28 draft is going back to Chi-Town. So needless to say, they are helping and re-upping their pick supply so they can help Connor Bedard and try to rebuild on the fly and do anything to move forward towards the playoffs. That would be kind of nice on their part. And New Jersey, now you're winning? Really, Devils? You're picking now to get on track and to do anything productive on the ice? Really? That's what we're doing here? The Devils have won 3 straight somehow for some reason, and are making their fans probably a little more annoyed with them, as they are getting further and further away from the McKenna sweepstakes, if you will. It's kind of wild that the Devils are picking now to get it right, I guess, on the ice. Maybe the Jack Hughes bump of him being an absolute menace in the Olympics, maybe that's going to help matters for them. At least it will for ticket sales, I guess, because everyone likes to cheer Jack Hughes. But at least except for feminists, I guess. But anyway, this is a weird time for the Devils, as they are somehow winning and probably shouldn't be. Will the Devils be selling more at the deadline? We'll see. Let's go to Birmingham, Alabama, and the Monkey's Paw tier. San Jose, just keep building. To be honest, the Sharks should just move forward. Whether they sell any more pieces, if they have any more older pieces to sell, we'll see. But in the meantime, between time, I think the Sharks are just better off rolling with what they got and rolling with how they move as of this moment. They're not built to win now, but maybe in 2 years they can become absolute monsters and menaces in the Pacific Division. And I think we're all here for the men in teal to get back to that. Just keep building with Celebrini and Will Smith, and I think you'll be fine. Ideally, a A-level defenseman and a goalie, and I think you got action in a year or 2. Toronto, good WA value. I'll be nice to the Maple Leafs for the next few seconds. The WA value with Colorado, sending him to the Avalanche and getting a conditional first, though it's not this year. I guess it helps them fine. I can't necessarily handle it. They're going to get the pick because it's lottery protected for 27, and there's no way the Avalanche are going to crater that badly with McKinnon and all those and the crew around those people, and fall back to the lottery like Toronto's doing right now. I just can't see that happening. In the event of this, the Maple Leafs will get the pick, and they'll have another one to play with. And they'll probably need it, considering it's on the board that they lose this year's pick to Boston. I don't think you want to do that to Boston, considering how much they've already lost to the Bruins over the years. And now the nice parts about Toronto end. This has been an ugly end. Return to play from the Olympic break. They have been miserable since the Olympic break ended here. They have lost 6 straight since that time period, where they actually roared in the Olympic break, dominating the western part of Canada. It was wild what they were doing. And now they ended up, they got cooked by the Lightning. No shame in that. That's supposed to happen. You got cooked by the Panthers. Well, that happens all the time because you don't beat the Panthers. And then Ottawa cooked you. That's not great, but Ottawa's better than you this year. The Flyers beat you, which is wild because the Flyers don't normally do that, and Travis Konechny didn't play. Then the Devils beat you, at which point, that's not great. Now, sure, those 2 wins were in shootouts. Okay, at least you put up fights in those games. And then you went to Madison Square Garden and got buried alive by the Rangers. And you got buried under Moynihan train station, and the Acela ran you over. That's not great. That's not a great idea, not a great thing. Oh, and your next opponents are the Lightning and the Canadiens and the Ducks and the Sabres and the Wild. They're not winning for the next... And then the Islanders after that. So you're not going to win for a while. This schedule is actually not nice. The next winnable game, in theory, for Toronto is in 20 days against the Rangers. But then again, the Rangers just beat them 6-2 tonight. Oh, this is not going to be a fun year. I feel bad for Steve Dangle. And the fact that he can't eat chicken parm, I feel so bad for Dangle. Anyway, we're going to move on to the next power rankings. That's enough Toronto. That's enough misery. LA Kings, can they surge? I do wonder about them. They got the Panarin trade in, cool, fine. Can the Kings kind of move? Can they move towards the playoffs in the Western Conference? In a West that is incredibly top-heavy in the Central Division with those 3 juggernauts, my goodness. And then after that, it's kind of sort of wide open. The Pacific Division's got a lot of teams with a respectable shot at actually winning it. From first place Vegas in that division with 72 to where the Kings are with 62. A lot of the divisions in between, where San Jose is and where Seattle is and Edmonton, and a lot of those teams are there in place where they could actually win this division. This is very doable with, I would say, a week or 2 of form. They've got a respectable shot, the Kings do, of getting to the playoffs. They just have to get the form. Can they do that? Florida, gap year. Yep, I'm done with thinking that the Panthers are going to make the playoffs. I think we can give up the ghost and we can chalk it up. I think we're good to go here. And I think the Panthers can use the gap year, get right, come back swinging and healthy for the 26-27 season, and see if you can get your 3rd cup in 4 years. I got no problem with this year just being a wash, and they come back swinging and try to reclaim their throne at the top of the NHL. We could be entering a time period where a Floridian team does not win a Stanley Cup. I was not ready for this. I'm not sure any of us were, to be honest. Philadelphia, rough loss tonight, and it's the first since the break. It's a kind of an ugly one. They kind of got goalied by the Mammoth, and then they did what they do. Utah did. That was a great goal by Clayton Keller. They kind of put the game out of reach. Other than that, the Flyers have actually been playing respectable since the winter break. They had won the Olympic break. They'd won 3 straight. One of those wins being a really good win against Boston. And Daniel Vladar has continued to play well. And they won these games without Travis Konechny, too. That's the other part about this. Konechny got hurt, and he didn't play in the Toronto game. They won that. And he didn't play in the Ranger game. They won that. So maybe Konechny gets back, and maybe the Flyers have an okay shot at this. In theory, they shouldn't, because their offense is way too inconsistent. And if it's not Vladar in net, it's alarming. But we'll see. We'll see if Konechny can get back. And for that matter, can Nick Seeler get back? We'll see if that happens. And if by this time tomorrow, Rasmus Ristolainen is still a Flyer, because it's on the board that he gets dealt, and the Flyers get a pretty penny for him back. Ottawa. Interesting Fogle trade. So this deal with the Kings is pretty intriguing, and it goes like this. They earlier today acquired Warren Fogle and a conditional 3rd in the 2026 draft. In exchange, the Kings will get a 2 and a 3 in this draft. So basically, they swap 3s. All right, fine, potential conditionally, and the Kings get a conditional 2. Kind of an interesting trade to do that if you're the Senators. And to me, I'd like to think that Ottawa's in a similar spot to the Flyers in a sense of there's a lot of teams in the East that are going to have the leap to have any sort of shot to get into the playoffs. And Ottawa may be better off selling. I think that's fine. And they're literally tied with the same amount of points at 67. And Ottawa has played one less game. They didn't play tonight. The Flyers did, so there's your difference. But I don't think Ottawa's going to be able to make up the ground. I just think the Atlantic is way too good, and Ottawa's obviously in that division, and the Metro is way too jumbled to get even a wild card spot. So they may just run out of time in terms of getting to the postseason. We'll see what Ottawa can actually do in terms of making any sort of moves between now and 3 p.m., though. We'll see if Ottawa's got anything else up their sleeve to get to more picks. Or to give them up, for that matter, because they just will deal some picks there, like I just mentioned. Seattle, staying alive. I got to hand it to the Kraken. They are moving and moving decently. In a Western Conference that is absurdly, it's obviously two different extremes, like I just mentioned. They're in the easier extreme, quote unquote, with the Pacific, but they're in decent shape. They are your 8th seed currently, or I guess your second wild card, as it were. And they're fighting around with Edmonton and Utah, so they could absolutely move up and move forward in the conference. Will Seattle be buying? Will Seattle be able to buy? What do they have they could use to get some pieces to help their situation out? Grubauer's been pretty good in that, no question. For that matter, DeCord's been pretty solid as well. They're 6-4 in their last 10, so they've been steady and stable. Can they keep that up and get themselves back into the playoffs? I guess time will tell on that front. At Edmonton, mortgaging the future. I think Edmonton kind of doesn't have a choice but to keep going for it, because as long as you have McDavid, Draisaitl, and Evan Bouchard, they've got a real shot to go win a cup because you're so high in talent, so good. Can the goaltending do what it need to do? We shall see. I mentioned that they basically gave Chicago a bunch of future picks over the next couple of years. I've mentioned that before. But in Edmonton's case, they got some forward depth, and Dickinson and Jacques and Doc from the Blackhawks. They got some forward depth there, which maybe they can help the crew, like I just mentioned, and Connor Murphy on the back end. Maybe they can help out with Bouchard in that realm. Edmonton obviously shouldn't have the high seed when it comes to the Western Conference and making a run. But then again, you got McDavid and Draisaitl, and both have shown they can basically carry you dual-handed or quad-handedly, if you will, to series wins. Bouchard as well. Got to give Bouchard his flowers as well. Can Edmonton get the rest of the usual issues together before they can make a run in the playoffs? And now, speaking of the playoffs, here's the Wilmington, Delaware playoff tier. Utah, a big price. Yeah, they paid it. They absolutely paid it. Like I mentioned, with Calgary and the trade that was, they are making a move with Uyghur. And the 3 second-round picks, I guess that goes to show you what all the hoarding of picks was when it came to the Coyotes era, where all they did was get bribes from teams to take on terrible contracts and then get high picks in those contracts and to take them. And now we're seeing it pay off because, they're actually getting dudes. They're getting actual dudes. Good work. I think I like what I'm seeing from the Mammoth. Keller continues to play well. Their goalie's situation is looking nice. Good bounce back win after losing to St. Louis last night after beating the Flyers in a shutout performance. Good work there. Utah's looking strong right now. I like what I'm seeing from the Mammoth. Just keep it going. Are you going to catch the 3 behemoths in the Central Division? No, you will not do that. But you're going to be the 4th team in. You're going to be probably the first wild card or one of the wild card teams. That's fine. I think we can handle that. It's good progress from a team that needed to make some. Good work. Washington, solid picks acquired. Now, yes, they're going to have to wait on them for 2027 and 2029, but they were able to get some picks from the team they beat in the Stanley Cup Finals almost a decade ago, and they gave up Nick Dowd to get them. But getting a third for 27 and a second for 29 should help if Vegas actually sort of craters for once, because they don't seem keen on doing the whole cratering thing. Washington's not too far out of the playoffs. The problem is they're currently out of the playoffs. They're currently 4 points out of the last playoff spot. And with Boston currently has the last spot there in a very crowded Eastern Conference playoff. Anyway, can the Capitals get it together, especially with the power play? Because for some reason, I talked about that before the Olympic break. It wasn't very good, with maybe the greatest power play player of all time in Ovi firing howitzers at the net. It's shocking that it hasn't been that great this year. Can the Capitals make one more surge and get back into the Stanley Cup playoffs? I guess we'll see. Speaking of Vegas, here are the Golden Knights. The Dowd report. All right, let's see what Dowd can do on a Golden Knights team that's always built to win, that's always trying to be built to win, and make the move to get towards the Cup once again. They, as we know, are the last team not out of Florida to win a Cup. And Vegas is going to be loaded up once again to go back. I like what I'm seeing from this Golden Knights team. They are the best team outside of the behemoths in the Central Division as of this moment. And by that, I mean barely, because the Ducks are breathing down their necks, and the Oilers aren't far off in that division. Neither is Seattle. This is going to be a real tight race to close this out. So getting that second seed is going to be real vital for Vegas to win that division and stay away from any type of drama from Colorado or Dallas or Minnesota, any sort of wild card situation if Vegas has a rough week. They got enough high-end talent to do that. It's just a matter of, can they get that done? We will see. Vegas, in their last 10, 4-5-1, not ideal, but not awful. They should be fine as long as they remain somewhat stable. And who knows, knowing Vegas, they got one more move up their sleeve before 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Anaheim, again, great coaching. Like I said about Joe Quenneville's job with the Ducks, they've done a magnificent job in putting them back into playoff contention and legitimate contenders when it comes to winning their division. Like I said, with Vegas, they're only a point behind them. Good work there. They are rolling too, 7-3 in their last 10. It's not just because Charlotte Flair was there. Woo! Anyway, I like what I'm seeing from the Ducks. They are moving forward, even though Carter Gaither will always be a Philly op. They are rolling, and I like what Anaheim could be capable of if they are to make it. We'll see if they do, and we'll see if Quenneville can get them boys into the playoffs, and from there on, who knows? They'll probably have a showdown with Edmonton or Vegas in terms of the playoffs, unless they win their division, but who knows what they could be capable of if they are able to get into the postseason. Columbus, momentum is sustainable. I asked the question before the break, could they sustain the momentum they had, because they were the hottest team in the league going into it. That answer has been yes. They've kept winning, and they have kept moving. 8-1-1 in their last 10, very impressive. The problem is, in the Eastern Conference, that's good enough for 9th. There are only 8 teams that make the playoffs. And that's not great. Anyway, I do like what I'm seeing from Columbus. They're keeping it rolling. They're keeping it pushing. I just don't know if they have enough high-end talent to get in, because everybody else that is in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference has some high-end talent that can get them over the finish line. I do wonder if Columbus has enough of it, though. And if they don't, I'd understand. It would just be a little disappointing that they didn't make it, considering how well they played the last 2 years, or a year and a half, if you will, and have still not made the playoffs thus far. At least they wouldn't make it if everything ended right now. The team that's right in front of them, Boston. Yeah, they're back. It's annoying, I know. The Bruins are here, and they're not going away, because they have returned after their year sabbatical of being terrible. They have found a way to get back, and even worse, they could have a very high draft pick, because the Maple Leafs are terrible and trash, if you will. I'm not quite sure how to say it in French, but la basura in Spanish will get it done. Anyway, Boston, very good. They are rolling as well as Columbus is. They are 5-2-2, okay, fine. 5-2-3, I should say, in the last 10. They're doing pretty well for themselves. Maybe not as hot as Columbus, but they're doing pretty well for themselves. And I would say for the Bruins, will they make another trade? For that matter, do they honestly have to? That's a good enough team that will give people fits in the playoffs, and their version of a boogeyman in the Panthers probably aren't going. Good on Boston for avoiding their boogeyman, even if it's the Panthers having a gap year. Boston, could they upset one of the main teams in round one? If they are, right now, they are the second wild card. Could they upset the Hurricanes in round one? Probably. Yeah, they could, because we know Carolina tends to underachieve in these moments in the playoffs. We'll see if that's the matchup for round one. It would be a nice one, though. Pittsburgh, pretty steady. The good news is the Penguins are rather steady in these playoffs. They did kind of get worked tonight in their game against Buffalo. I'll talk about Buffalo later, but they did kind of get worked. It was a pretty rock-solid stuff coming from them. They did destroy the Golden Knights on Sunday. That's a good look. Losing to Boston, no shame. That was the game in between. But Pittsburgh did get worked tonight, like I mentioned, by Buffalo. Malkin got ejected tonight. It was kind of a dirty hit there. He kind of slashed. It was not great. He had his whole Jason Voorhees, Mike Myers level flows. Will that mean anything for the game on Saturday with the Flyers? From a Flyers fan's perspective, one would think no, because they're playing the Flyers, and that tends to not happen in Philly's favor. But anyway, that's a game that Pittsburgh always takes seriously. That's a game that the Flyers always take seriously. We'll see what happens on Saturday. And in between that time period, will the Penguins make another trade? They already made one with Colorado, where they were able to get a second-round pick back. We'll see what happens here. They got Sam Girard as well in the deal. That's Sam Kulak over to Denver and playing for the Avalanche. We'll see what Pittsburgh may be capable of, because right now they're a playoff team and they seem capable of doing great work because Sidney Crosby is still great. From an ops perspective, that's not great at all. And Montreal, do you buy? This team is good enough. This team is legitimately good enough to make the playoffs, and they are dangerous enough to do damage upon entry into said playoffs. But do they buy, though? Do they have enough pieces to go and make a move where they can be bold and make a high-end move to really challenge in the Eastern Conference that, to be honest, is very wide open, I would say. And I think Montreal's got enough physicality to play some good playoff hockey, especially with Nick Suzuki there, because he's kind of good at this whole physicality thing. That's going to be a real test for me for Montreal. Do they make a bold move and go get a big piece before the 3 o'clock deadline? I'd like to see it from the Canadian standpoint. 5-3-2 last 10. Pretty good, not bad. No complaints there. I just wonder if Montreal will get bold in English and in French. We're going to go to Moynihan, and we're going to go to the title tier. Detroit. Atlantic is winnable. Yeah, it really is. Sure, they're 4-4-2 in their last 10. Okay, that's not great. But they're only 3 points out in the Atlantic. They're not in bad shape. The Lightning have come back to form and come back to the pack, if you will. And in the case of Buffalo, they have kind of caught up, I guess, as well, I guess you could say. But when it comes to Detroit, they've been steady as they go. And they have really not been awful at any point this year. Have they been spectacular? In some instances, maybe, but never really awful. And that's a real good look. Do the Red Wings buy? Do they build around Dylan Larkin and company and Lucas Raymond and company? Do they build around these people? We will see. And if I'm Detroit, I'd probably do it. The ISO plan's starting to work. Take advantage of it. I would argue that the Red Wings could use some scoring. And so could this next team. New York Islanders. Can Luff help? They got Matt Luff, I mentioned before, in the trade. And I do want to know if the Islanders can get out of this whole doldrum of scoring. Yes, their defense and their goaltending will absolutely suffocate you. Like I mentioned, they are the Gunthers of the NHL when it comes to this. That's the way they move, and that's the way they just put you to sleep with all the physical play, the defensive goaltending. You give the Islanders a lead, forget it. You might as well pack it up most nights. But can they score? Can they get some scoring? And can they do enough to keep up with the big boys when they make it a shootout, basically? We've seen in the past the Islanders are willing to make trades and be bold and give up some high picks. Is this year one of those times where they do it again and get bold and try to trade for some more offensive punch? We'll see if Luff can help the cause, and we'll see if they can get some more offensive punch. Buffalo, nice statement win. I mentioned it with the Penguins. That was a really good win on the Sabres' part, as their drought is getting closer and closer and closer to ending. Buffalo has done let's face it, they've done a great job in finally putting it all together. And they've finally seemingly gotten over themselves and all the miserable stuff that they've done recently actually not even recently, like the last 15 years or so. They've won 5 straight, and they are in real play to not only win their division, but be the best team in the East. That's how close they are to the top spot in the Eastern Conference. They've done a magnificent job finally putting it all together. Finally, Buffalo, good work. And Buffalo also got DJ Moore today, but that's the Bills, not the Sabres, as we know. Well, the Sabres follow up and make another big deal as Pegula sheds out more money to get some higher price talent. I guess we'll see. Tampa Bay, a concerning stretch. I guess we figured that the Lightning couldn't stay hot forever, right? Like after they were playing unstoppable hockey for about a month, and they were untouchable to anybody and anyone not named the Avalanche. Well, they kind of came back to form a little bit. They've lost 4 straight and have looked kind of sort of sluggish since the Olympic break. It's a little unfortunate, I would say, for Tampa. I think the Lightning will be fine. I think they'll get it together. And it's a matter, I guess, of getting healthy and getting their rhythm back. If the Lightning can do that, they'll be great. If they can't, then okay, it's a little concerning. But the Tampa Bay Lightning have been known to get it together and get it done. And I think they're one of the few teams in the league that don't need a super high seed to make a run. They've shown themselves to be worthy of Stanley Cup championship run, high seed, no fans, all fans, whatever it is. They've shown themselves they can move. I just would like to think that Tampa Bay is going to snap out of this soon enough. Carolina, last great chance. I wonder how many more great opportunities this Hurricanes crew is going to have when it comes to this, where everyone's at peak of powers, where the East is as vulnerable as it possibly gets, and their boogeyman, like Boston's, is not probably coming to the playoffs in the form of the Panthers, where Florida has tormented them for a couple years now. They probably won't be there to do so this time. I do wonder if Carolina can finally take advantage of this. They are rolling too. They're 8-1-1 in their last 10. They are absolutely steamrolling cats. And in theory, the Hurricanes are going to be ready to go postseason time. Can they finally break through and get to the Stanley Cup final in this era? I guess time will tell. And as you can probably tell, that's the final team in the East, because the last 3 are all the heavyweights in the Central. We're starting in Minnesota, though. McCarron brings hits. He was amongst the leaders of the Nashville Predators with hits. He actually led the team with them with 85 before Minnesota brought his physicality, presumably to play with Kaprizov and or Boldy. I can't blame them for that, bringing Mike McCarron from the Nashville Predators, and they gave up a second-round pick to get him. So you got some physicality there. You kind of got like some enforcer-style stuff to help the cause here. A playoff-style player to get ready for a team that is trying to make a very deep run in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Either way, it feels like unless they win this gauntlet of a Central Division, they're going to have a fight to the death with Colorado or Dallas. And they got a guy that's prepared for that. The real question is, are they truly prepared for a best of 7 and maybe 7 full games with either one of those two behemoths? And I can say the same for Colorado and Dallas, for asking about the other 2 teams I don't mention here. They also got Jeff Petrie, Minnesota did earlier today. That was a pretty solid move there. They got Petrie from the Panthers for a conditional 7. Okay, not bad. They're loading up on defense as well. Get another guy with some experience in the playoffs. Good work there. It's going to be a showdown either way between the 2 teams that don't win the Central Division. The team that's in second place in said division, Dallas, could catch Avalanche. It's on the board. They're not that far off. And Dallas is loading up for bear to try to make a move. I talked about the Tyler Myers trade, where they gave up a 2 and they gave up a 4 later. And they also got Michael Bunting earlier today from Nashville for a 3rd in the 26th draft. So that's a pretty big move on the offensive side of things to try to help Robertson and Radulov and the crew that they got going on up and down in Dallas. that is always ready to go when it comes to Stanley Cup playoffs. This Stars team's been waiting to break through too. Yeah, they got real close to the Cup in 2020. I do need Jake Ottinger to be better Jake Ottinger when it's go time, but this is another real good shot for him to do that. Can he get that done? The Stars are shining and doing relatively well. They have closed their gap with the Avalanche, and maybe some of it's Colorado falling back a little bit, but there's also the whole thing about the Dallas Stars winning 10 straight. Yeah, they owned February, and they kept it pushing in January too. So, needless to say, the Stars have made up some ground on the Avalanche. Speaking of which, Colorado is still number 1. Heavyweight weekend awaits. I've talked about Minnesota and Dallas. Guess who Colorado's next 2 opponents are? Both of those teams. And they get one of them tomorrow night. In the form of the Stars, they go to Dallas. That seems like appointment viewing, despite the fact that the Americans are going to be playing Brazil in the World Baseball Classic at that exact same time. So they need multiple screens. Also, the whole thing about SmackDown being on and Charlotte Flair's day job being a thing. Yeah, kind of might want to have multiple screens, like 3 of them, for such an occasion. Also, there's a game against the Minnesota Wild on Sunday. As I've mentioned before, they are also a heavyweight. I think that's also appointment viewing. I know there may be some wrestling or some things on Sunday, but I think we can work it out. I think we can find a way to make that happen. Anyway, when it comes to the Avalanche in terms of on the ice, they've gotten it together with back-to-back wins. The game I think that Charlotte attended was a beatdown by the Avalanche against the Ducks. They also whooped the Kings earlier this week, and they beat the Blackhawks on Sunday. So they are getting some momentum. They've won 3 straight. Minnesota made a statement win against them last week, but all good. Colorado is getting it together. They've won 3 straight. They're starting to get their footing back in. And they're the only team in the NHL with 40 wins because Colorado went God mode for about a month straight. So you kind of expect it. Carolina can catch them with a win in their next game in terms of the 40-win club. And for that matter, Dallas is 2 wins out from that. The point of it is the Avalanche are moving, and the Avalanche are still more than likely your President's Trophy winner unless Dallas somehow has another surge in them. And for that matter, Minnesota, I guess, could too. We'll see what happens there. And if Colorado's got another move up their sleeve because the Avalanche, we know, are aggressive and kind of an all-in team, and they should be with McKinnon and the rest of that crew down there who's already got a cup to their name, and we'll see if they can get their second cup in 5 years. And there you have it. These are the power rankings for the NHL. Coming up later today, I guess when this editing is done, NBA power rankings. We'll talk about the basketball teams in question, all 30 of them. Some have been great. Some have been bad. Statements have been made. San Antonio just made one earlier tonight. They're not the team I'm going to start with, obviously, but they may be the team I end with. The team I start with? Well, I guess we're going to go to California State Capitals. Sacramento, you're going to be the first stop of my next train of thought.